Please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the chamber continues to hear the remaining testimony of Mok Tim and to begin hearing testimony of another witness, that is through TCW 906. Ms. Ji Siu Huang, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals to today's proceedings. Gracias. Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present. Mr. Nguyen Chi is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his right to be present in the courtroom. His waiver has been delivered to the greffier. And we also noticed the presence of Counsel Dorian Chen, counsel for Nguyen Chi, who requests a recognition so that she can practice before the chamber. Witness Mok Tim, as well as his duty counsel Moon Sawant, are ready to be called by the chamber. We also have a reserved witness today, that is through TCW 906, who confirms that through his best knowledge he has no relationship by blood or by law through any of the two accused, that is Nguyen Chi and Kir Sampon, or through any of the civil parties admitted in this case. The witness will take an oath before the Iron Club statute this morning, and he has Mr. Mom Rathi as his duty counsel. President, thank you, Ms. Ji Siu Huang. The chamber now decides on the request by Nguyen Chi. The chamber has received a waiver from Nguyen Chi dated 3rd May 2016, which confirms that due to his health, headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his direct presence at the 3rd May 2016 hearing. Having seen the medical report of Nguyen Chi by the duty doctor for the accused at ECCC dated 3rd May 2016, which notes that Nguyen Chi has backache and cannot sit for long, and recommends that the chamber shall grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants Nguyen Chi his request to follow the proceedings remotely from a holding cell downstairs via an audio-visual means. The AV unit personnel instructed to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that Nguyen Chi can follow. That applies for the whole day. We have another proceedings that we need to do before we hear the witness. There is a request from the defense team for Nguyen Chi via electronic mail to the senior legal officer of the trial chamber for the recognition of Ms. Dorian Chen, who is currently senior legal advisor to Nguyen Chi's defense. The request by Nguyen Chi defense as well as relevant documents will be attached to the proceedings today. Based on the request and the relevant documents, the chamber deems that Ms. Dorian Chen has sufficient qualification to be recognized by the chamber as a defense counsel for Nguyen Chi before this chamber. And pursuant to Rule 22(a) of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants the floor to Son Arun, the National Defense Counsel for Nguyen Chi, to request for the recognition of Ms. Dorian Chen as a defense counsel for Nguyen Chi. You may proceed. Son Arun. My name is Son Arun. I am the National Council for Nuon Chea. And good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors, and good morning, everyone. Ms. Doreen Chan begins her work with my team as a senior legal officer from 17 February 2014. Recently, she has been recognized by the Bar of Association of Cambodia, and she took an oath before the Courts of Appeal of the Kingdom of Cambodia on 19 April 2016. For that reason, I humbly request her recognition before this chamber so that she can represent my client Nuon Chea. Thank you. President, thank you. And Ms. Doreen Chan, please be on your feet. Could you please pronounce your name? For me, it's a bit difficult to say it. What is it, Chen or Chen?
It's Chen.
Thank you. And Ms. Doreen Chen, you are hereby recognized by the Chamber as the Defense Counsel for Nuon Chea in case 002 for the purposes of the proceedings before this Chamber. And based on this recognition, you have the same right and privileges as the National Council for Nuon Chea. You may be seated. Court officer, please usher witness as well as his duty counsel into the courtroom. President, I'd like now to hand the floor once again to the co-prosecutors to continue putting further questions to the witness, and the remaining allotted time for the co-prosecutor and the lead co-lawyers for civil party is 1 session only. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors, Counsel. Good morning, Mr. Witness. I'm going to pick up where my colleague left off yesterday. One follow-up to something you testified about yesterday. You said that you worked at S21 for a year, maybe a little more than a year, that you treated hundreds of prisoners, and that your daily task was to clean and bandage the wounds of prisoners. Did you see prisoners with wounds on their backs and nails pulled out throughout the 1-year period you worked at S21?
Yes, I did witness that. I witnessed the nails and the toenails are removed, as well as the open wounds at the back where I treated.
Can you describe for us the wounds that you would see on the backs of prisoners? What did those wounds look like, if you can describe them a little bit?
I treated prisoners who had wound or marks on their back, and I would wash and cleanse those wounds with salty water, and I bandage the wounds, and usually the wounds would dry in 3 or 4 days after I cleaned and bandaged them.
What I was trying to ask, was there a shape of the wound, or can you give us some description of what the wounds on the backs of the prisoners looked like? What the shape of the wound was? Are you able to describe that for us?
There were small and large elongated sizes of wounds, and the wounds cut through the outer skin.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Turning to another subject, did prisoners die at the S-21 office during the year you worked there? And if so, how often did prisoners die who were detained while they were detained at S-21?
During my work there and during my treatment of the prisoners, every 3 or 4 days or a week, I would see a prisoner died.
And what was done with the bodies of prisoners who died while they were at S-21?
After a prisoner died, a medical staff would be asked to carry that dead prisoner on a stretcher and bury the prisoner outside the compound.
And were you ever required to go and bury prisoners who had died outside the compound?
I was ordered to bury prisoners outside the compound of the prison, and yes, and that is correct.
Was there a particular location where you were told to bury these prisoners that you can describe for us?
The burial site varied depending on the vacant land. Sometimes there was a vacant land between a block of a building, so the body would be buried there. Whenever we could see an open field, we would bury the prisoners there.
Did the medics unit prepare lists of the prisoners who had died? Did you prepare reports of prisoners who were seriously ill? When you found a prisoner who had died at S-21, Who did you have to report that to?
I was not a chief, so if that is the case, then I would report to my chief. There is a chief of the medic, 3. And I also had Hu as my group chief, but 3 was the chief of all medics. So after they reported to him, then he would issue us instructions what to do next.
Mr. President, with your leave, I'd like to show the witness some documents, starting with document E3/8461, E3/8461, which is a report or list on the ill prisoners at S21.
Yes, you may proceed.
Mr. Witness, the document you've been handed, E3/8461, is a list. The first 2 pages of this list. Are you able to read, Mr. Witness?
I have difficulty reading. It seems to be not clear to me.
Let me read to you the parts that I wanted to ask you about. The first 2 pages of your document are a list of 46 seriously ill prisoners. And on the very last page of the document, if you look at that, there's a chart that lists the numbers of prisoners with various conditions at S21. This is a report, and this is what I want to ask you about, that is sent by POW on behalf of the S21 medics to the Office 21 Committee on 6th of May 1976. And the chart lists a total of 172 prisoners who were ill that day, 46 of whom were seriously ill. My question to you, who was POW, the person who signed this report?
I did not know about that. I only provided the treatment to prisoners, and I did not know about the number of prisoners, and only my boss would know about that. I did not have a list of prisoners. Whenever I was assigned to treat prisoners, I would do that, but I did not know the number of ill prisoners.
My question, did you know someone named POW who worked in the medics unit?
I do not recall this name.
Do you remember a young medic who worked with you named Dawn? Do you remember Dawn?
Yes, I know Dawn.
Let me read to you what Dawn said in his OCIJ statement about POW, the person who signed this report. Mr. President, I'm reading from document E3/7666, E3/7666, Khmer ERN 00163-818, English 00163-822, French 00235-797. This is testimony that Don gave. Question: when you arrived at S21 prison, what was your job? What did you do? Answer: probably in early 1978, I came to work as a child medic. Continuing below. I had never studied medicine. My team leader, Pao, had given an injection which killed a cadre in the unit and was arrested and charged with being a traitor. The new replacement team leader was Yun, Pao's former deputy. He hanged himself to death out of fear of being arrested like his chairman. The child medics with me were Team and Mon. In the end, I saw that only the child medics remained. All the adult medics had been arrested and killed. End of quote. Does that refresh your memory about Pao? Do you remember Pao now?
I vaguely recall the name Pao. I know for sure about Tri and Hu. However, later on, they were arrested and imprisoned in S21, and when I distributed medicine to prisoners, I saw them being detained in a room, and that was 2 days before the arrival of the Vietnamese troops.
Mr. President, for the record, in the new OCIJ S21 prisoner list, document E393.2, number 10,143 on that list is Cheng Pao, chief of a medical staff team at S21, who is recorded as entering S21 on the 8th of May, 1978. We were talking about prisoners who died at S21. I want to now give you a few reports that I've located from a period in October 1977 regarding deaths of prisoners. Mr. President, with your leave, may I provide documents E3/3181, E3/3181, and E3/8460. May I provide those to the witness?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Witness, I've handed you a number of lists. Let me just read it, identify them for the record. E3/3181 includes the first two lists. In that document, identify 5 prisoners who died from disease on the 3rd of October, 1977. You'll find 3 on the first list and 2 on the next list. And also in E3/3181, there is a list of 10 prisoners who died of disease on the 12th of October, 1977. There is an annotation in this one for the first 2 lists that reads, already removed, in handwriting. And the second document I provided to you, E3/8460, this is at Khmer ERN 000688899, English 00843 through 44, French 00843 46998. That is a list of another 4 prisoners who died of disease on the 5th of October, 1977. What I wanted to ask you about in these lists, Mr. Witness, most of the prisoners who died from disease who are identified here were relatively young. 11 of the 19 detainees in these lists were 30 years old or younger. Can you tell us why prisoners who were so young were dying at S21?
Witness, please hold on, and Council Copper, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Yes, I object to this question. Considering the medical background and training of this witness, he is in no position to give any informed answer as to reasons of death. He was someone who treated wounds and brought around medicine. He will not be able to say something from his own knowledge as to why people died. You saw on the previous list that was shown by the prosecution that apparently many people suffered from beriberi. Maybe there was an epidemic. We talked about that.
Counsel, you are testifying. We are back to what we have on a daily basis. We've heard your objection, but I don't think we need your testimony.
I think we should find out what the witness has to say. We all recognize there weren't autopsies here, but the witness was a medic. He was there. And I'd simply ask for his observations on why prisoners were dying at S21 who were that young.
The question is permissible, and the chamber also needs to hear the response from the witness. For that reason, the objection by Counsel Copper is overruled. And Mr. Witness, please respond to the last question if you recall it. Otherwise, you may ask the co-prosecutor to repeat the last question to you. Witness, I did not know about that. I did not know any details regarding young prisoners who died.
What about deaths of prisoners in general, Mr. Witness? Did the medics at S21 have sufficient medicine? Were there enough properly trained doctors to be able to properly and effectively treat the prisoners?
We, the medics, were assigned to different room, different floor of the buildings, and of course I was not the chief. I worked based on the assignment, and my main task was to provide pills to prisoners according to the assigned room and floor of the building. And when my hours ended, a new medic would take over. And there were 3 buildings, so medics were assigned to different floors of each building.
Let me read to you what you told OCIJ on this subject. This is your OCIJ interview, E3/7673, Khmer ERN 00163-713, English 00401-872 through 873, French 00305-214. This is what you told OCIJ. Question: did you think the medication and treatment were effective? Answer: in general, they were ineffective, but if it was diarrhea, some of that could be dealt with. Question: why do you think the Khmer Rouge did not have you use French medication? Answer: because most of the French medication that remained had expired, and there was never any new medication coming in. End of quote. Why did you say that in general the treatment that the medics could provide at S21 was ineffective?
As for the medicines, most medicines had expired, and the production team in Khmer actually produced medicine. It's a herbal medicine for the treatment of dysentery. And so actually those pills were newly produced. We produce vitamin C, and we produce pills for the treatment of dysentery and malaria, and a large percentage of the medicines produced were for the treatment of prisoners at S21.
Let me move on to another. Within document E3-3181, there is another list. It's on the third page of E3-3181. It is a list of 3 prisoners who died of disease or committed suicide by hanging on the 3rd of October 1977. My question, do you remember prisoners at S21 who committed suicide?
I do not know about that. I heard people say about the committing of suicide. I was outside, so I do not know about that.
And the last subject I'm going to cover with you, Mr. Witness, during the time you worked at S21, did you become at any time aware of prisoners whose blood was being extracted or drawn?
I did not witness that incident, but I could see the bags for keeping blood, many of them under the staircase. I did not count how many bags at the time, but I saw those bags under the staircase, 20 or 30 bags. However, as I said, I did not know whether there was blood extraction.
Let me ask about the bags first. Where you say you saw them under a staircase? Where was the staircase that you saw these blood bags? What building?
That stairs or staircase was located to the east of my office or my location, and I could see those bags.
When you say your office, are you referring to the building you described yesterday, the wooden building that was just outside the entrance to S21 that was used by the medics?
That was a separate house, and that house was the accommodation of was not a accommodation of medics. The medics were living in a different and separate house, and compared to that house, the stair was in the east.
Can you just then clarify to me that the building with the staircase where you saw these bags of blood, where was it inside the S21 compound or outside the compound? And where was it located in relation to the medic's house?
It was outside S21 gate to the east of the medic house, 20 or 10 or 20 meters away from the medic house, the place where I walked past and saw the bags of blood.
You saw bags of blood. Did you hear from the chief of the medics, Hoor, about blood being taken from prisoners? And did you ever see prisoners whose blood had been drawn?
I did not witness the incident, and at the time, as I said, I saw the bags of blood. I was simply a medic, a subordinate of Hu, and he did not want to talk to me on every occasion. I at the time saw bags of blood, and I did not question him further about the bags of blood. After seeing those bags of blood, I was terrified the day after. And I cannot recall when, which month or which year I saw those bags of blood.
Let me see if I can refresh your memory a little again, Mr. Witness. This is from your OCIJ interview, E3 7673, Khmer 00163-712, English 00401-871, French 00305-213. This is what you told OCIJ, quote, "There were prisoners whose blood had been drawn because Hoor, the medic, who was with my team, told me. The prisoners whose blood had been drawn were pale. I saw about 30 to 40 prisoners whose blood had been drawn." End of quote. You told OCIJ you saw 30 to 40 prisoners. My question is going to be, where did you see those prisoners?
I don't object to the question, Mr. President, but I believe prosecution left out a crucial first sentence of that answer. It says, "I treated patients whose blood had been drawn."
You heard, counsel, you did say in this interview that also that you treated patients whose blood had been drawn. My question to you, you told OCIJ you saw 30 to 40 prisoners whose blood had been drawn. Where did you see those people?
I did not witness the patients whose bloods were being drawn. As I said, I saw the bags of blood, but not the real incidents of blood drawing.
Mr. President, I'd like to provide two more documents, or three lists to the witness on this subject. With your leave, E3 2285 contains at Khmer 0009212, English 00873-432. It's a list, a prisoner list for 21 May 1977. Same document, E3 2285, Khmer 00009167, English 00873-332 is a list dated 8 September 1977, and E3/2164 is a list of prisoners of blood-taking section for 25 October 1977. With your leave, may I provide these three lists to the witness?
President, yes, please. And Duty Counsel, please assist the witness in his reading, and please also refer to the specific page of documents that the co-prosecutor is referring to, so that the witness clearly understands the question.
So while you're looking at these, let me direct your attention. The first document from E3 2285 is a list of from 21 May 1977. It identifies 5 prisoners from divisions 310 and 450 who had arrived at S21 the prior week and were smashed. And on the very right column, you'll see the note, took blood. The next list, also from E3 2285, the 8th of September 1977, is a list of 7 prisoners who were smashed that day. The 7th on that list, Loch Lam, is identified as from the blood-taking section. And the last, the third list provided to you, E3 2164, is a list of 5 prisoners from Regiment 152 who had entered S21 only 4 days earlier on the 21st of October, signed by Hoare, list titled Prisoners of Blood-Taking Section. My question to you is in relation to the blood-taking section. Who were the medics? I understand you weren't responsible for this. Who were the medics who were responsible for taking blood from S21 detainees?
There was the chief of the medics and the group who were perhaps responsible for that blood drawing, and usually the simple medics were not assigned to go and draw the blood. Simple medics were required to treat prisoners within the building.
You've identified before a medic named Tree, who was one of the chiefs of the medics. Did you know a medic named Rin, who worked with Tree?
I cannot recall other's name. I can recall another name, Don, the medic, and Ta, also a medic. And for Ron, he has become handicapped with one of his legs. I cannot recall the others' names of the medics.
The reason I ask you, Proc Khan, an interrogator at S21, who lived in the house next to the medic's house and witnessed blood being taken, was asked in this courtroom back in 21 July 2009, Your Honors, the reference is E3/7463 at 11:53:40. He was asked who conducted the blood drawing he saw, and he identified Tree and medic Rin as among those who were present. And also in this courtroom on the 3rd of August 2009, E3/7467 at 10:11:20, Deutsch confirm that comrades Rin and Tree worked under his supervision and were tasked to take blood to Hospital 98. Does that refresh your memory, Mr. Witness, about Tree and Rin? Is it correct that they were two of the medics assigned to take blood at S21?
I do not know anything else about that. I cannot recall even the names of the medics. I only recall some names of those medics as I mentioned, but not all of them. And at the time I was quite young.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Witness. That's all our questions.
President, and the floor is now given to the lead co-lawyers for civil parties to put questions to this witness. You can take the floor now.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning to all of you. Welcome to Doreen Chen. Good morning, witness. I have a few questions to put to you today. You explained to us yesterday and this morning your role in the way that you would treat the prisoner's wounds. And I wanted to know if you ever treated women prisoners, female prisoners.
Answer: no, no female prisoners that I treated them. Female prisoners did not sustain any injury, but I delivered pills to those female prisoners for their illnesses. I did not clean the wounds for those female prisoners.
Donc, si je comprends.
So if I understood you properly, you would give medicine to the female prisoners, but you did not treat wounds on female prisoners. Did I understand your answer properly?
That is correct.
Y avait-il
Were there women nurses at S21?
The place, the medical house where I worked and stay, there was no warehouse for medicines or female nurses or medics. I do not know where the medicines were brought from, but those medicines were brought to us at that house. And when we lacked medicines, the medicine would be brought by the chiefs or those people, and I do not know where the warehouse was for keeping medicines.
lorsque vous
When you would encounter the women prisoners to give them medicine, did you ever hear them complain about abuse, about sexual abuse, in fact, from the interrogators, from the guards at S21?
When I was administering the medicines, they complained that they would die while after the detention. However, at the time I was trying to treat them for their recovery. They did not say anything else besides that they would die.
This is a follow-up question regarding the female detainees to whom you would give medicine. Did these female detainees have any specific complaints other than the complaints that you just mentioned? That is to say that you said that they were afraid of dying.
Answer. They were in a large room. 3 or 4 female prisoners were there in a large room. They said they had no hope, and there were people responsible for catering meals, and I was responsible for giving medicines. They were detained there, and it was not my responsibility to go there and question them. I had different duties to perform, that is to deliver medicines to prisoners at other rooms and also to clean wounds for some prisoners. I did not have the liberty to have a normal dialogue with the prisoners. If I had done that, I would have been criticized by others working in that S21. I did not have the right to communicate with prisoners besides my role that I played.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I would like to mention an example and have you react to it. During the previous case, Duik spoke about an incident which is referred in paragraph 457 of the closing order, and he mentions an incident in which an interrogator inserted a stick inside the vagina of a female detainee. When you were a medic at S21, did you ever hear from your colleagues, for example, that such incidents had happened?
I did not hear of that incident. After I delivered the medicines, I played around for some minutes with my colleagues at the medical house, and after that I went to have a meal. I was quite young at the time. I did not have the interest in other matters besides the treatment that I had to do. After performing the tasks on regular basis, I did not have any fear in relation to the treatment tasks. And I was talking to myself that there would be one day that I would end up there in the center. For any kind of news, I was never informed of. I do not know about that.
Connaissiez-vous une personne?
Do you know a person who was working in the medical unit and who was called Swoon? And his name is pronounced as Soueng, Swoong.
President, no Khmer interpretation from the audience? Witness, I cannot recall the person by the name Seung. I cannot recall his physical shape as well, not to mention his name. I did not pay attention or had a great interest at the time since I was quite young. I knew only a few colleagues as medics and the chiefs of medics.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Even if you don't remember his name, do you remember an incident in which an S-21 medic was involved in a sexual attack against a female detainee? Does this event possibly refresh your memory? Do you have any kind of recollection of such an event?
I do not know about that, about the sexual abuses against female detainees by the medics. And I may have known about the medics who were later on detained as a result of sexual abuses. And later on, I recognized two or three of my former colleagues who used to be working at the production unit at Dak Mau were detained at S-21.
And can you provide a bit more detail to the chamber regarding these sexual offenses that apparently involve three of your colleagues? Who, where did this happen? What recollections do you have regarding these incidents?
I do not know, in fact. I will tell the chamber about that if I know, particularly about the rape against the female detainees. I cannot recall that those incidents.
Et lorsque vous...
And when you describe these incidents, which apparently involve three of your colleagues from Tak Ma Hospital, where exactly did these incidents happen? In Tak Ma or at S-21? I didn't quite understand your answer.
En français.
In the French version, in any case.
I worked at production team and I was reassigned to S-21. The chief of my production unit was detained later on at S-21 and I had on one occasion witnessed his detention.
Donc pour résumer, votre chef...
To sum up what you have stated, the head of your military training production unit was detained at S-21 for having committed acts of sexual assault against female detainees. Did I properly understand your testimony?
I do not know. He was in charge of the medicine production unit. He had already married. He was one working at the Khmer productions unit, and later on he was sent for the detention at S-21. I did not know what happens to him.
Vous souvenez-vous de son nom?
Do you recall his name?
ខ្ញុំចាំ
His name was Dam. I can recall his name. He was the chief of medicine production unit. I first thought that he had died already, and he was he was in detention for a period of time before the entry into the country by the Vietnamese troops.
Il me reste 2 questions, Monsieur le témoin.
I have 2 more questions, a witness. Did you ever hear of an incident involving an interrogator called Tuch? Does the name Tuch ring a bell? And do you have any particular recollections as to what happened to him?
No, I did not know Tuj. I only focused on my work at the time, and I could only barely read or write the language. And I did not know the backgrounds of any other staff working there, and also I was a pretty young man at the time. Usually I would do what I was asked to, that is to treat the prisoners, and at the end of my shift I would go back, and I did not spend time talking to any guard or anyone. So as I said, I did not know the backgrounds of any individuals there.
Je vous remercie, je n'ai plus de questions.
Thank you. I have no further questions. I don't know whether my colleagues have any questions, in which case I'll give them the floor, Mr. President. My colleague, Mr. Ang, has some questions for the witness, and will put those questions during the time left.
Good morning, Mr. President, Your Honors. Good morning, parties. Good morning, everyone in and around the courtroom. I only have 1 or 2 questions to put to the witness. Mr. Witness, you were one of the medical staff working at S21, and can you tell the chamber how many staff there were in the medical unit? Answer. There were between 10 to 15 staff within the medical unit, and we were assigned to treat prisoners at those detention buildings, and there were 3 additional medical staff who treated staff that is not prisoners at S21. And usually staff would be treated at the medical house. Although I did not see a lot of medicine in their pack, I only saw very little medicine as well as a few syringes. So in total, there were about 5 medical staff at the medical house. Question. Can you recall what year did you start working as a medical staff at S21? Answer, I cannot recall the year. However, I worked there for about a year or so, and I knew that S21 had been established much longer than that. Question. Do you know did you happen to know a young girl who dressed like a boy and who had short hair, and her name was Janta. Did you know her? Answer: no, I did not. I did not see her. Question: among the 10 or so medical staff, as you testified, did you notice any young man who was emancipated and whose age was between 13 to 15 years old? Answer: are you talking about a prisoner or a medical staff? Counsel: it's a medical staff who distributed medicines. Answer: I forget most of them, and I can recall only about 2 or 3 medical staff. Question: among the 10 or so medical staff who worked with you, can you tell the chamber their ages? Answer: they were about my age. Usually they were between 16, 17, 18 or up to 19 or 20 years old. But mostly they were about 17 or 18 years old. As in my case, I started working at around 13, 14 or 15 years old. Question: this may be my last question. Among those who were around your age, that is your peer, how many of you were within the 10 or so staff of the medical unit? Answer: we, about 10 of us, were of a similar age range. That is between 16 to around 18 years old. Counsel: thank you, Mr. Witness. I don't have any further question, Mr. President.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few follow-up questions for the witness. Witness, you have spoken at length of the use of saline water used for cleaning wounds. Can you tell us where the salt water was from?
They actually boiled the water and they put the salt in. After it was completely resolved, then they would bottle that saline water. And it was produced there at the center.
Qui fournissait le sel?
And who provided you with the salt? Do you know where the salt came from?
There was plenty of salt at the kitchen, so we would go and ask for salt. We boil the water, we put the salt in. After it's fully dissolved, then we bottle them into bottle. And later on we use it with cotton to cleanse and bandage the prisoners. Actually, bandage was not a proper bandage. We took parts of the mosquito net and used it as a bandage. And we also had some other material to apply as bandage for the prisoners.
Est-ce qu'on vous fournissait du coton?
Were you provided with cotton? I believe I heard you say that you used cotton. Who provided you with the cotton?
The chief gave us a cotton. Sometimes we use the compressed bandage to soak it into the saline water to clean the wound. And the cotton that we had was not that much.
Est-ce que ce coton, ces compresses, est-ce que vous savez s'il est...
Was the cotton and gauze produced in Cambodia, or did you get it from other countries?
I did not know where the chief actually obtains the compressor bandage. And as I said, when we did not have it, then when we saw some nice and clean pieces of mosquito net, we would use it as a compressed bandage.
Vous avez dit avoir...
You stated that you saw prisoners whose nails or toenails had been pulled out. Did you see these kinds of wounds every day, regularly, or that was exceptional?
I only occasionally saw it. That is the nails that had been removed, and I did not see it on a daily basis. Thank you, Judge Levin, and thank you, Mr. Venus. It is now convenient for a short break. We'll take a break now and resume at 10:30. Court officer, please assist the witness during the break time and invite him, as well as his duty counsel, back into the courtroom at 10:30. The court is now in recess.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ